You know, who likes to go into deep cover is Ethan Hunt. I don't know if you guys have heard about this cat.
Look at you. Transition.
Transition. So yes, we're sort of in the bag for the Mission Impossible movies. We don't have to go, you don't have to go back too far to, well, I guess the last movie was maybe when last time we really talked about it in detail. But I feel like whenever these movies come up, we sort of generally nod to, we've been excited about this one. It's sort of pre-sold on it. So I mean, I think I went into it with the question being much more of like, what am I going, what, how is this going to be different? What's this going to be compared to the kind of run they're on in this series, like the last
Yeah,
couple? This is the third one in a row directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Is that
that's
correct?
right. Yeah.
So it went from being kind of a director's playground franchise where you have De Palma and then you have Wu and then you have Abrams and Brad Bird. It's like, and now it's like the McQuarrie Cruise franchise, at least for this movie and the next one. So it's like it's a slightly different beast now, and I don't know. It made me think a lot about franchises and franchises that go through phases, and franchises that last this long with a central actor, and that's kind of what our conversation has been about it. But Steve, I feel like if you didn't lead off on a Tom Cruise movie, that would be a sort of a crime against humanity. So maybe you can talk a little bit about this movie and how it fits in with what Mission Impossible has become, and also maybe just what the series means to you.
I mean, honestly, like I think it's one of the strongest series out right now, and it's one of the rare exceptions where I feel like it's kind of gotten stronger as it's gone along. And yeah, you're right. Like when McQuarrie, or when Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise started working together, they done a number of things together. They did, like, I don't even know how far back it goes, but like Valkyrie and what was the other one they did? Jack Reacher. Like they have a great working relationship, it seems, and they're very much in sync. And it seems like Tom Cruise is kind of in that phase of his career where he's kind of working with, he went through that phase where he was working with all of like the like basically the greatest filmmakers ever made or that ever existed. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he had his bullet list of like everybody that you could think of, and he's been in a movie by them. And then he kind of got into this phase where he's more so way more involved, like with the production, and like very much more hands-on, and kind of this idea of like getting people into movie theaters, especially post-pandemic, during pandemic times. So I mean, it's really an interesting thing to look at Mission Impossible, because it's been 5 years since Fallout because of the pandemic, and to
Wow.
see that even with that time, the movie is performing well enough, and I think it'll have legs and continue to go on to be a very successful movie. um but yeah, the thing that stands out for me really is that performance, in terms of, it does feel like the franchise is getting stronger as it goes along. And I don't think that's a very common thing, and it's very
Mm-mm.
unique. I'd say the only other recently one is, like, people could maybe argue that John Wick is kind of in that same ballpark. Um, but it is also a testament to, like, Tom Cruise's star power. We have conversations all the time about like who are movie stars anymore, and especially on a global in the global scheme of things, like he is probably one of three left.
Right.
Depending who you want to, how badly you want to argue for some other candidates, but he's a no-brainer. That said, yeah, this was one of my top three movies of the year in terms of anticipation. Like we said on the last podcast, I think we mentioned it last week. Like, we didn't get to see the press screening for it because of technical difficulties, so I did go see it in a Dolby screen still. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I was in the bag. Like John said, I love this movie. I need to see it again to really feel like where it ranks, like, in the franchise for me, because a part of like that first viewing experience was really kind of just like, I was kind of really just kind of knocked out a little bit in terms of, like, how many action set pieces there are. And for a movie that is 2 hours and 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I kind of felt like it moved at a really fast clip. Like, it was moving very quickly for me. So, like, just to be able to take it all in was I want to do that again. Um, Big takeaways for me, like on the plus side, I love the idea of Tom Cruise aging with this franchise, even though he's 61 and still does these crazy stunts. I think in the scope of what Ethan Hunt is to the franchise, this movie does a great job of like kind of showing him falling behind in some sequences, or being outwitted or outsmarted or out physically, like, he's not a perfect spy anymore. He doesn't win everything anymore. And you know he's got like flaws, you know, like he's got like these weaknesses at times. And I think that's cool just to kind of see where other people, you know, exceed him. And that's the great part of the team he puts together. I think that really kind of gelled really well in this movie. And like that reliance on each other really kind of comes to the forefront. Um, the whole idea of like the MacGuffin of the film, or the villain, quote unquote, of him. I'm not sure that I really love all of the AI stuff going on in the movie. It's interesting, and it's now, and it's topical.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll be a little more well-rounded, or kind of come into view better in part two. And I have a feeling it might, from what you know, some feelings I have about how it's framed in this one. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, I'm in the bag. Like I was smiling the whole time. I was impressed. You know, getting some goosebumps here and there, getting emotional a couple times in the movie. Um, it's just I just love these movies so much. And yes, I love Tom Cruise, but it's like they can be mutually exclusive. Like I love Tom Cruise and I love the Mission Impossible movies. So like he is these movies, yes, but there's so many other great things in these movies. You know, the cast that they built around him: Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Haley Atwell is incredible in it. Pom Clementif is amazing in it. You
Yeah.
know, we mentioned earlier Shea Wiggum. Like, there's a lot of great new characters on the screen that I think they give a lot of time to, which surprised me in some sequences. Like a lot of Haley Atwell and a lot of Pom's character, more than I thought. Which I think is great for the series, and the setup for whatever's to come in part two.
Yeah.
But this is a definite recommend for me. And again, I'm not going to go into any spoilers. Maybe we'll talk more when Ronald's seen it. But where did you fall in it, John? Like, what did you think of it?
I mean, I guess I can just kind of pick up a couple of things you said. One is, I think an interesting thing about this movie, and something they're going to have to deal with. You're right that they're dealing with it. They're going to have to deal with it even more, though, as screens get larger and resolution gets better.
Better.
They are going to have to deal with 61, 65, whatever it's going to be, year old Tom Cruise. He's going to have to stop
Totally.
dyeing his hair. They're going to have to stop pretending that women melt at the sight of him or something. You know, there's just going to have to
Yeah.
be something they do to adjust to that. This movie had a couple of moments that were kind of, I mean, it doesn't hurt the movie though, because it's Tom Cruise. But like when he does like the sleight of hand stuff with the key, and it's like, I think that's supposed to be cool, but it actually feels very much like a guy in real life would feel if he started doing sleight of hand stuff to a woman, you know. But it's like the movie moves through it so quickly. You go, you know what? Tom Cruise is still playing this guy that we agree is cool, and it's kind of what you said. Ethan Hunt can be kind of a dork, and it doesn't hurt it's not like James Bond being kind of a
Yeah.
dork
Yeah.
would hurt James Bond terminally. Ethan
Sure.
Hunt can be kind of a dork, and it can even be the Tom Cruise persona that allows us to enjoy that, because we do know that he's like not, I don't know, he is what he seems to be, but he's also this other sort of weirdly sincere, weirdly all about it guy that is just like, in our ironic times, I don't know that people quite know what to do with a guy like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is something interesting about these movies that, as you said, that like they know what they're doing with, like, this is a franchise that exists outside of Tom Cruise, but he is the movie in so many ways. So him being like the emotional spoke around which the other characters rotate
Yeah. Yeah.
makes sense. And I think that they might be able to successfully, I mean, maybe he'll quit before he dies doing a stunt, but I could see them successfully shifting him into a slightly less focused center role at one of these stories. You know, I mean, I don't know that they
Yeah.
need to do that, but I'm just saying I could see them doing that, the ensemble they're building. So I think it is an interesting new movie. I think Fallout for me is still the my favorite one. Like when I think of the sequences in that, the fights in that, the villains in that, I think that's the one
Yeah.
that I
That's the
that's the most recent one, right? That
yeah,
one's
that was the
got the
last one.
best, craziest action in it. Nothing in this quite tops that. However, there is a train sequence that is, the way it escalates, it's just insane. And I will say that maybe that was the moment when I was moving in my seat the most and going like, oh shit, this is like, you know, because that's where the payoff of they do as many real stunts in these movies as they can. And then of course there's the motorcycle jump that everyone's seen from the trailer. The
Yeah.
movie builds up to that in a very almost funny way of like making you wait for it, but when you see it coming, you're, no pun intended, you see it from a mile away. I mean, but you're sitting there going like, oh man, he's gonna have to jump off a fucking mountain on a motorcycle, isn't he? And the way the movie plays with what you think you know about that stuff, I don't know, I just think it's very interesting kind of to all the things you said about the
Yeah.
type of franchise this is. It's about the sequences. It's about the stunts. It's got people, other characters we really care a lot about. I do think this movie's early scenes are kind of hurt by attributed it to like a COVID filmmaking thing where like maybe actors weren't always in the same room together, but there's scenes with like Luther and Benji talking where the angles, there's like weird close-ups that break the what is it, the rule of like, I forget what, the crosses the line, where it's like the eye lines don't quite match up and you can't tell what's going on. And there's one scene with a bunch of bureaucrats talking where it's a group of people briefing Kittredge, the main sort of bureaucrat in this movie, and the people briefing him, they all trade off saying like sentences. It's as if they've all memorized the same script and they're all trading off their sentences. And it's just like, oh, every actor in this scene gets a chance to say something. But it'd be like, this weapon is one of the greatest weapons anyone's ever created. And another one says, it could kill 1,000 people in 2 seconds. And then the other one says, and you wouldn't even know it. You know, it's like, and it feels a little bit like it was a little too much of that. However, I think that once this movie establishes its rhythms and gets into that meat of the story, and it might be like you said it, Steve, when Haley Atwell's character kind of enters and becomes part of the thing, I feel like it really took off. And I'm not saying all that's because of her. I'm just saying because at that point, the plot has been firmly established, and it's all that AI stuff. It's like the MacGuffin of the movie. In my opinion, it took like 15 or 20 minutes to set that up. That could have been maybe 5 minutes. But I don't want to always, we talked about this after Oppenheimer. I'm sick of, I might just not say it ever again. I'm sick of always saying movies could be shorter. We all know the moment, that most movies should be like an hour and 40 minutes. We all know that. So let's just say, like, for the last time, movies could be shorter. This movie could have been shorter, but to your point, Steve, it doesn't drag as it goes on. It's amping up. And if you were thinking this is starting off a little slow, by the time it kicks off, you're not like, I wasn't like looking back on that bumpy opening stretch, but I did feel like the first 3 or 4 scenes were like not quite connected enough for there to be real momentum. And I was beginning to think, oh, is this movie a little stop and start? And then once it started, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not too worried about it.
It does feel like it picks up momentum as the movie goes. And I do think that train sequence at the end, something I noticed is like, there's a lot of action sequences that definitely feel like, somebody might criticize them as like, they're retreading like scenes that have already been done in prior mission films, or at least similar to the prior ones. Like, there's like there's like a sandstorm scene and the train scene, and like a car chase. All these things have happened in other films, yes. But I do feel like they've found ways to like kind of escalate them in some ways, especially with the train sequence, because you're right. At like the last like 3 minutes of that train sequence, like I was not comfortable in my seat as well. Like it was very, very awesomely made. Like just the, you have as, you feel like, your main characters are going to probably be fine, but just like going through the sequences, the situation that they were in, and like you said, the practicality of how they shoot it is just like, it just makes it so much more tangible. And like seeing them bounce off of seats and like climb up on top of a train, like that stuff just is so much better. And I hate to say it, like comparing it to like Dial of Destiny, the train sequence in that, it's just like, I think that's where you really see the difference between these shots when they're like practical and not. And they do so much of this stuff for real in the mission films that it just makes it even more impressive, I think. And then the train sequence is awesome. But I really, really, I think Fallout's probably still up there for me as kind of the peak. But this is it's on par. Like it's in the conversation. Like it's as entertaining as any other mission film.
Okay, you know what this felt like to me, Steve, and this is not a knock necessarily. This is just to add clarity to it, to Ronald, because we've talked about the Fast and the Furious movies, how they had kind of, and even though those aren't my jam, I know that around the 4th one they hit a new gear, and then the 5th one really exploded into that world, and then people like the 5th, 6th, 7th one a lot, and then after that the 8th one, I don't like that one as much. Well, the 9th one could be better. The 10th one, did we just see the 10th one? We did, right?
Yeah.
That's a part 1 of 2, whatever. Like I feel like this movie, this was the first time that this series felt like, okay, it's still got that class that you expect from the Mission Impossible movies, but it was dipping a little bit into that. I can see a Fast and the Furious effect, because especially with the villain being this kind of high concept thing.
Yeah.
But this whole idea of, well, there's one man who can do it, and it's like, you know how in Fast and the Furious, it's always a little silly to believe that the government, like espionage experts, would be like, these former car thieves are the people that we need to parachute in some muscle cars. But like, you buy it if you are into those movies, you buy it for the fun of it. Like that's just, it's silly, but we get past it. Mission Impossible, James Bond, I feel like it's not, we're not quite going into like Roger Moore Bond territory, but we are getting into a little bit more of, you just have to believe that the impossible mission force is this, like, they literally go rogue every time. You know what I mean? It's like, even in the movie, people talk about it, how it's like, this guy has gone rogue his last 10 missions or whatever. So it is a little bit of a joke, and it's a little bit silly, but I was thinking how, what if this franchise had a couple, 3 movies in a row that were a little bit huge and amped up and a little bit sillier? It's like, would I mind if they still have visceral action sequences like the ones you're talking about? And I don't think I would particularly. I think it would lose a little bit if it lost that kind of, that patina of class. But I don't think, again, I don't think leaning into Tom Cruise aging hurts the character that much.
Yeah.
Also in this movie, it's, speaking of Fast and the Furious, they do a great job of making the sort of family vibe like important. His whole thing that's in the trailer, where he says that your lives always matter more to me than my own, you know, like,
great line.
It's a great line, and you super feel it, and it's the thing that keeps me coming back to these movies on a certain level, is knowing that at some point they're going to break my heart with one of these characters that helps him, you know. And that's something a lot of these types of movies don't have, is that, I mean, Fast and the Furious has that sense of a family of characters, but once everybody dies and comes back, it's like, well, okay, you know, it doesn't have the same, it doesn't hit the same as in this series. You would believe someone would die and it would mean something. It wouldn't be like, you know, setting up for another one. So I don't know. I think this, the health of the franchise is strong. Even if I don't think this is the best Mission Impossible movie, it's like, that is actually a very high bar. Honestly, the way I feel about Fallout is that it was one of the best theater movie going experiences I've ever had. So
holy moly, guacamole. Now I got to see it in the theater, man.
Well, I was not saying that about this one. I was saying that about Fallout. I'm saying this one's pretty damn good.
Fallout's the last one.
Yeah, that's where, I mean,
oh my
that's
god,
the Henry, that's the Henry Cavill,
Henry Cavill cocking his arms.
Yeah.
It's got, like, I feel like that in and of itself can't be beat by any other movie.
There's only one scene that really compares to it. It's like this it's like Jackie Chan movie, and it's him and this like clay-faced dude, and he's like fighting him. It's like a 10-minute fight scene that's relentless. He beats him, and then Jackie kind of realizes that he has to fight in his own style. He was trying to fight his style.
Yeah.
And it had a similar sort of feel to it. That movie was special, man. That's why I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill, like you said, you mentioned this offline, but maybe he'll come back to the franchise. I would love to see him come back. He's like, I didn't die. I was hanging out.
He's so super dead, but him coming back with like cybernetic parts, you never know. Like after you have AI as the villain, you know, there's a lot of stuff you could do.
I'm so curious about what you mean by that, but I don't want you to give it away. Is it?
No, just go see it. Yeah, we'll talk more.
Okay.
I mean, you do have Isai Morales as like a heavy. You do have a human villain. It's not super, but it is
not like a
Steve
floating
said,
head, just like
no. But as Steve said, it does go a little bit beyond. I don't know. It's kind of what I'm saying. It's like a little bit of a heightening of the world, a little bit of a not quite comic booking of it, but a little bit more close, inching towards like sci-fi or something. You know, but you know, Tom Cruise invented that genre, so he can do it if he wants.
Yeah. Brick by brick, though. Brick by brick. Cool. So you guys suggest seeing it. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Steve, what do you think about calling it part 1? Do you think they should have just called it Dead Reckoning? Because this doesn't feel like an incomplete movie. I want to say that. It doesn't feel like Fast and the Furious. It doesn't feel like Across the Spider-Verse. It ends with a mission still to pursue that branches off, but this movie makes a complete loop of a story. It's not like one of those recent movies that really is like half of a story. I didn't think. I mean, for reasons I don't want to spoil, I can't explain what I mean by that, but I didn't feel like this movie left me going, what happens in the next 5 minutes? What happens in the next 10 minutes? It feels like we're at a resting place, not in the middle of a moment. It's more like the end of Empire Strikes Back or something like that.
Okay.
Cool. Like,
it's I mean, I guess I see why it's got the part 1 again without spoiling anything in terms of how the movie ends. So no, I think it works for the movie. I do agree though that it's like, this is a complete movie. you know, unlike Fast and the Furious, or even some people have felt that way about Spider-Verse, but not, I wasn't one of those, by the way. But
I
yeah,
can
no,
tell
I
from
think
the
the title's fine.
disdainful way that you said that.
I think the title's fine. I think the way it ends, it does end this story, but you know, we're halfway there, I guess, without spoiling something. But yeah.
So do you think we really get the next one next year? Do you think there's any chance of that?
No.
No.
I mean, I heard somewhere, I forget, I think it was Haley Atwell, maybe someone said that they've only shot like 40% of it.
Yeah.
Boy.
If that's accurate, and I don't know if that was as of, how long ago, but I mean, a lot was shot. It's a lot of stuff they shot for part 2 while part 1 was shooting. But I mean, part 1 was so like riddled with COVID stuff that like there was like 9 different rap sessions. Like if she was on the Happy Sad Confused podcast, and she was basically like, she rapped like 8 or 9 times on part 1, like because they had to break it out so much because of COVID and shutdowns and moving.
And now everything's shut down too.
Right, moving continents and shit like that. Like it's just so I don't know where that leaves part 2, but yeah, there's both Spider-Verse and Mission. I don't see any way we're getting those movies next year, but that'd be nice if we did. But take your time, make them awesome, because both of them deserve like an amazing final one.